Hey, fifth grade friends. It's Mrs. Van and Rudy. Rudy, can you look at your friends? Rudy. Rudy. There he is. There he is, friends. We're going to read some more from our book Guest. Okay. We are on chapter 7, and I'm looking forward to figuring out what is going to happen in this book. So Rudy is going to listen, and I'm going to read. Hope you guys enjoy. I'm missing you an awful lot. I must have fallen asleep because when I opened my eyes, I was in the stone shelter, covered by blankets, warm and dry and safe. My dog tended the fire, and Guest sat beside him, chattering away in his odd caws and clicks. When Guest saw my eyes open, he said, "I told you not to go. You mooncalf, not me." My dog shook his head at Guest. "I think Molly knows she should have listened to you. Next time, perhaps she will." Guest thumped his chest. "I knows more than Molly Mooncalf." "Oh, be quiet," I muttered. "You were just scared, that's all. You don't know anything." Guest climbed into my dog's lap. "Molly Mooncalf," he whispered, giving me a sly smile. I closed my eyes and gritted my teeth. Guest was the mooncalf, not me. But there he was, sitting in my dog's lap, and here I was, lying in a corner, all by myself. My dog liked Guest better than me, just because he knew more about pukas than I did. It wasn't fair. When I woke up in the morning, I was still cross. If I hadn't been so hungry, I would have gone in search of the kind folk all by myself. Guest watched me from the other side of the fire, but I ignored him. The kind folk would never swap him for Thomas. How foolish of me to think they'd want a puny creature like him. My dog had gone out foraging and found a dozen duck eggs. Along with cheese and bread, it made a good meal. When we'd eaten, my dog said, "Now I must go back to Port Riverton and settle a deal with a man and a horse." "Oh, don't go," I begged him. "What if the pukas come back, or something even worse comes?" "If you remember what I told you, Molly, you'll come to no harm." My dog put his hands on my shoulders and looked into my eyes. "Trust no one except Guest. Listen to him. He knows more than you think. And certainly more than you know. He's part kind folk himself. But you know much more than he does, and you're stronger, and you can tame pukas. What can a weak creature like Guest do to save me?" My dog looked at me closely. "Why can't you see Guest as anything but a hindrance?" "Because that's what he is," I muttered. "He's been a hindrance since the day they left him in our garden. He ruined everything. Everything." I bit my lip hard to keep from crying. "And now you like him better than me, just because he knew about the puka." My dog reached out for Guest and pulled him closer. "If you two are going to find the kind folk and live to tell the story of it, you must get along with each other. Or at least try." He looked at Guest. "Promise me not to call Molly names." Guest looked at me. "Yes, I do what you say. No more Molly Mooncalf and no more Guest Mooncalf." Something in Guest's strange eyes told me he still thought I was a mooncalf. He just wouldn't say it out loud. To me, my dog said, "And you, Molly, will you promise to listen to what Guest tells you? He was born in the dark lands. Knowledge of its ways runs in his veins." "I'll listen," I muttered, but I didn't say I'd believe Guest. Kind folk lied. If their blood ran in his veins, how was I supposed to trust their changeling? Lifting his pack, my dog said, "Pack up your things. We'll start out together, but in a few miles the path splits, and I'll go my way." We walked silently through the forest. Over our heads, the branches of the trees interlaced, blocking most of the light. The only birds I heard were crows quarreling with one another. Every step took us closer to the dark lands, and I was more afraid than I cared to admit. We stopped at a tilted signpost, furred with moss and lichens, pointing west to Port Riverton. "This is where we part," my dog turned to the west. "I take this way, and you take that." "But nothing's written on the other side to show me where I go," I said. "There's only one way to go, and that's straight ahead," my dog told me. We're at the border of the Darklands. One more step, and you'll be in their world and at their mercy. I didn't like the sound of at their mercy. Can you at least tell me how much farther it is? It's impossible to say. I almost stamped my foot in vexation. Oh, that's a fine answer. Time and distance change here, Molly. One day, a certain place might be 10 miles away. Another day, it might be 100 miles away. In Lower Hexham, what's 10 miles one day is 10 miles the next day, and the day after, and the day after that. But you're not in Lower Hexham, are you? No, but I wish I were. It's not too late to turn back. I took a deep breath and looked long and hard at him. I came here to fetch my brother. I won't go home without him. Oh, but you're a stubborn one, my dog said. Even if you find the kind folk, it's not likely they'll return Thomas. You don't know that for certain. What does anyone know for certain except the sun will set tonight and come up tomorrow? He patted my shoulder. We can make good guesses, though. A guess is a guess. Mine is just as good as yours. My dog shook his head in disagreement and hoisted his pack higher. I must bid you farewell. He doffed his hat. Remember, Guest knows more about this place than you do. Listen to him, Molly, and don't quarrel. While we talked, Guest sat on the ground catching beetles and releasing them. Now he looked up at my dog, his eyes a-squint. I stays on path. He glanced at me and shook his head as if to say he had no control over what I might do. And so will I promised. All right, then. Good luck to you both, and be wary of all you meet on your way, my dog told us. In a panic, I took a step after him. Will we see you again? My dog smiled. Oh, I'm certain we've not seen the last of each other, Molly Cloverall. He raised his hand in farewell and walked off to Port Riverton. With a loud sigh, I took my first step in the Darklands, and Guest followed. Without speaking to each other, we continued on our way. And that's the end of Chapter 7. Stay tuned for Chapter 8.